In a distant part of the galaxy, far beyond the reach of human telescopes, an alien exploration vessel named Zixar-7 drifted silently through the cold emptiness of space. The ship was sleek and metallic, its surface shimmering faintly as it reflected the light of nearby stars. Inside, the crew worked with precision, their movements calm but purposeful. Commander Jarek Voss stood at the helm, his sharp eyes scanning the vast expanse of space displayed on the main screen. Beside him, Lyra Knoll, the ship's science officer, studied readings from the sensors, her fingers moving quickly over the glowing panels. For decades, the Zixar-7 had traveled across the galaxy, charting planets, moons, and asteroids. Most of the worlds they encountered were barren, lifeless rocks, their surfaces scarred by time and cosmic forces. But today was different. Today, something unusual had caught their attention, a small blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star. It was Earth, though the aliens didn't know that yet. All they knew was that this world radiated strange energy signatures, unlike anything they'd ever encountered before. "Commander," Lyra said, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm but carried a hint of curiosity. "The energy readings from this planet are irregular. They don't match any known patterns." Jarek turned to look at her, his expression thoughtful. "Irregular how?" "They're fluctuating," she explained. "Sometimes weak, sometimes strong. It's almost as if the planet itself is alive, or at least reacting to something." Jarek frowned. "Could it be natural phenomena? Solar activity, perhaps?" Lyra shook her head. "No, the fluctuations are too organized, too deliberate. I think we should investigate further." Jarek hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Agreed, let's move closer." The Zixar-7 adjusted its course, gliding smoothly toward the mysterious planet. As they approached, the crew began to notice more details about it. Swirling clouds covered parts of the surface, and vast oceans stretched out beneath them. There were also patches of green and brown, land masses teeming with vegetation and other signs of life. It was beautiful in a way, but there was something unsettling about it too. Something they couldn't quite put their finger on. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Jack Monroe sat hunched over his desk at NASA's Deep Space Observatory. His office was cluttered with papers, books, and computer screens displaying streams of data. Jack was a quiet man, not one for small talk or socializing, but he had a brilliant mind. He spent most of his days analyzing signals from deep space, searching for anything unusual. And today, he'd found something. "Rachel," Jack called out, leaning back in his chair. "Can you come here for a second?" Rachel Meyer, his colleague and friend, walked into the room. She was carrying a cup of coffee, her dark hair tied, back in a ponytail. "What is it?" she asked, setting the cup down on his desk. "I've been monitoring some anomalies near Jupiter," Jack explained, pointing at one of the screens. "At first I thought it was just interference, but look at this." He zoomed in on a section of the data, highlighting a series of faint pulses. Rachel leaned forward, studying the screen. That does look odd. Could it be solar wind or maybe a comet breaking apart?" Jack shook his head. "I don't think so. These pulses are too regular, almost like communication." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "You mean like someone or something is trying to send a message?" "Exactly," Jack said, his voice tinged with excitement. "Or maybe they're already here." Rachel chuckled nervously. "You're jumping to conclusions, Jack. We don't even know if intelligent life exists outside Earth." "Well, we won't know unless we keep looking," Jack replied with a grin. "Let's run some more tests. If these pulses are real, we might have stumbled onto something big." As Jack and Rachel worked together, analyzing the data and running simulations, they noticed something else. Strange gravitational shifts were occurring near Jupiter, as if a massive object was affecting the planet's orbit. At first, they thought it might be a rogue asteroid or a black hole passing through the solar system. But the more they studied it, the clearer it became that whatever it wasn't natural. Back aboard the Zixar-7, the crew continued their approach to Earth. They activated their cloaking device, ensuring that they remained undetected by any primitive technology on the planet below. For now, they wanted to observe quietly, gathering information without revealing their presence. "This is fascinating," Lyra murmured as she studied the scans. "There are billions of organisms. On the surface, most of them seem harmless, but there's one species that stands out." "What do you mean?" Jarek asked. "They're dominant," Lyra explained. "They've built structures, modified their environment, and developed tools. Based on our observations, they appear to be relatively advanced, at least compared to other life forms we've encountered." "But," Jarek prompted, sensing there was more. "But," Lyra hesitated. "There's something off about them. Their behavior is chaotic. They fight among themselves, destroy their own habitats, and create weapons capable of mass destruction. It's troubling." Jarek crossed his arms, his brow furrowing. "So we're dealing with a potentially dangerous species?" "Possibly," Lyra admitted. "But there's also evidence of cooperation, innovation, and creativity. They're unpredictable. We'll need to proceed carefully." As the Zixar-7 entered Earth's orbit, the crew prepared to deploy a probe. Its mission was simple: gather data about the planet's atmosphere, geology, and dominant species. What they didn't realize, however, was that the probe would trigger events far beyond their control. Deep within Earth's oceans, ancient microbial life forms stirred. These microorganisms had existed for billions of years, long before humans or even dinosaurs roamed the planet. They were guardians of sorts, protecting secrets buried deep within the Earth's crust. Secrets about survival, evolution, and destruction. Secrets that no one, not even the aliens, could fully comprehend. When the probe descended into the atmosphere, it released a faint signal, barely noticeable to anyone watching. But to the microbial colonies hidden beneath miles of water, it was like a flare lighting up the darkness. They sensed the foreign presence immediately and began to awaken, releasing spores that drifted upward toward the surface. Unbeknownst to both the aliens and humanity, the stage was set for a collision between two vastly different civilizations, and the consequences would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. For now, though, the Zixar-7 hovered silently above Earth, its crew, unaware of the storm brewing below. Jack and Rachel continued their work at the observatory, piecing together fragments of data that hinted at something extraordinary. And somewhere in the depths of the ocean, the Guardians stirred, ready to defend their world against whatever threat loomed on the horizon. The Zixar-7 remained cloaked in Earth's orbit, its presence undetected by the billions of humans below. Inside the ship, Commander Jarek Voss and his crew worked tirelessly to make sense of the strange readings they had picked up. The planet's energy signatures were unlike anything they'd encountered before, complex, irregular, and seemingly alive. Lyra Knoll, the science officer, was particularly intrigued. She spent hours analyzing the data, her sharp mind piecing together fragments of information that hinted at something extraordinary. "This species, they're fascinating," Lyra said, breaking the silence in the control room. Her eyes were fixed on the holographic display showing images of Earth's surface. Cities sprawled across continents, rivers snaked through landscapes, and vast oceans shimmered under the sunlight. "They've achieved so much in such a short time," Jarek nodded but didn't share her enthusiasm. "And yet they're dangerous. Look at their history." He gestured toward another screen displaying archived footage intercepted from Earth's communication satellites. Explosions erupted in war-torn regions, factories belched smoke into the air, and towering machines drilled into the ground. They destroy their own environment. They fight among themselves. How can we trust them? Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully. It's not just destruction, Commander. Look closer. They also create art, music, and technology. They explore space even if only within their solar system. Their potential is immense. Jarek sighed. Potential doesn't mean stability. We need to understand them better before deciding what to do next. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Jack, Monroe, and Rachel Meyer were growing increasingly alarmed. The anomalies near Jupiter hadn't disappeared. Instead, they had intensified. Gravitational shifts were now affecting nearby moons, and strange pulses continued to emanate from deep space. Jack stared at the data, his brow furrowed in concentration. "There's no denying it anymore," he said finally. "Something's out there. Something big." Rachel leaned over his shoulder, her expression skeptical. "You think it's aliens? Real ones?" Jack shrugged. "I don't know what else it could be. These signals are too organized to be random cosmic noise." Rachel hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, let's say you're right. What do we do about it?" "We keep monitoring," Jack replied firmly. "If they're trying to communicate, maybe we can decode their messages, or—" He trailed off, his voice dropping slightly. "Maybe they're already here." Rachel's eyes widened. "Here? On Earth?" "It's possible," Jack admitted. "We haven't detected any ships, but that doesn't mean they aren't hiding." As the two scientists debated, the alien probe deployed by the Zixar-7 entered Earth's atmosphere. It was small and sleek, designed to avoid detection while gathering data. The probe scanned the air, water, soil, and even living organisms, sending streams of information back to the mothership. What it found was both fascinating and disturbing. Earth's atmosphere was thick with pollutants, traces of carbon dioxide, methane, and other chemicals that suggested industrial activity on a massive scale. The soil contained remnants of nuclear fallout, evidence of weapons capable of annihilating entire cities. And the water told a darker story. Beneath the waves, the probe detected ancient microbial colonies, dormant for millennia but now stirring as if awakened by some invisible force. Back aboard the Zixar-7, Lyra studied the probe's findings with growing unease. "Commander," she said softly, her tone cautious, "there's something unusual happening in the oceans." Jarek turned to face her. "What is it?" "The microbial life forms are reacting to the probe," Lyra explained. "They're releasing spores, spreading them through the water. I'm not sure what effect this will have, but it could be significant." Jarek frowned. "Could they pose a threat to us?" Lyra hesitated. "I don't think so, not directly. But they might affect the planet itself. If these microorganisms are as old as they seem, they could hold secrets we can't even imagine." Unbeknownst to the aliens, the spores released by the microbial colonies were already beginning to interact with Earth's environment. In remote areas of the ocean, bioluminescent blooms appeared, glowing eerily in the darkness. Schools of fish swam erratically, as if confused or frightened. Even the currents seemed to shift, carrying the spores toward shorelines and deeper waters alike. On land, Jack and Rachel noticed strange phenomena occurring around the world. Reports poured in, of glowing algae washing up on beaches, unusual weather patterns forming without explanation, and bizarre animal behavior. At first, scientists dismissed these events as isolated incidents unrelated to one another. But Jack and Rachel saw the connections. "It's happening everywhere," Rachel murmured, scrolling through news articles on her laptop. Glowing. Algae in Australia, freak storms in Europe, mutated fish in South America. "And all of it started after those gravitational anomalies near Jupiter," Jack added. His voice was tense, his hands gripping the edge of his desk. "This isn't natural. Something or someone is causing it." Rachel looked at him, her face pale. "You think it's connected to the aliens?" "I don't know," Jack admitted, "but I think we're running out of time to figure it out." As days passed, the situation grew more dire. The glowing algae spread rapidly, covering coastlines and choking marine ecosystems. Fishermen reported catching deformed sea creatures, their bodies twisted and grotesque. In some places, the ocean itself seemed to boil, releasing clouds of steam that smelled faintly of sulfur. Deep beneath the waves, the microbial colonies continued to awaken. They weren't just reacting to the alien probe, they were adapting. The spores they released began merging with organic material, creating hybrid organisms that defied classification. Some resembled jellyfish with razor-sharp tentacles, while others looked like monstrous versions of familiar sea life. None of them belonged on Earth or anywhere else in the galaxy. Back aboard the Zixar-7, the crew watched in stunned silence as the probe transmitted images of these creatures. Jarek clenched his fists, his jaw tight with frustration. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he muttered. We came here to observe, not interfere. Lyra shook her head. We couldn't have predicted this. These microorganisms are far more advanced than we realized. They're manipulating their environment, using the probe's presence as a trigger. What do we do now? Jarek asked, his voice heavy with responsibility. We contain it, Lyra replied firmly. If we don't stop the spread of these spores, they could destabilize the entire planet. But containing the spores wouldn't be easy. The microbial colonies were ancient, their mechanisms beyond anything the aliens had encountered before. And they weren't the only problem. Unknown to the Zixar-7, the probe had accidentally triggered another phenomenon, one that would soon spiral out of control. In a forgotten corner of Siberia, remnants of an old Cold War experiment lay buried beneath layers of ice. Decades earlier, scientists had developed self-replicating nanobots designed to clean up environmental disasters. But the project had been abandoned when the nanobots proved uncontrollable, assimilating everything in their path. Now disturbed by the alien probe's signal, the nanobots began to stir. At first, their movements were slow and sluggish, hindered by years of dormancy. But as they absorbed energy from their surroundings, they grew stronger, faster, and more intelligent. Within days, they had multiplied exponentially, spreading across the frozen landscape like a metallic plague. Trees turned silver as the nanobots consumed them. Animals collapsed into piles of dust, and rivers froze solid under their relentless advance. Jack and Rachel stumbled upon reports of these events while researching the glowing algae. At first, they thought it was unrelated, a freak accident caused by climate change or human error. But as they dug deeper, they realized the truth. Something far greater was unfolding, something that threatened not just humanity, but the entire planet. We need to warn people, Rachel said urgently, her voice trembling. If we don't act now, it'll be too late. Jack nodded grimly. But who's going to believe us? Half the world thinks we're crazy already. Rachel hesitated, then squared her shoulders. Then we'll make them believe. Because if we don't, none of us will survive. As the two scientists prepared to sound the alarm, the Zixar-7 faced its own dilemma. The crew knew they couldn't leave Earth. Not while the microbial spores and rogue nanobots posed such a threat. But intervening directly risked escalating, the crisis potentially making things worse. Commander Jarek stood at the helm, staring at the swirling blue-green orb displayed on the main screen. Earth is unlike any planet we've ever encountered, he said quietly. It's beautiful, dangerous, and unpredictable. And somehow, I think it's testing us. Lyra glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. Testing us? Or warning? Us? Jarek didn't answer. Instead, he gave the order to prepare the ship's drones for deployment. Whatever happened next, they couldn't afford to wait and see. Commander Jarek Voss paced the control room of the Zixar-7, his mind racing. The situation on Earth was spiraling out of control faster than anyone had anticipated. The microbial spores released by ancient oceanic colonies were spreading uncontrollably, creating monstrous hybrid creatures that defied logic. Meanwhile, the rogue nanobots in Siberia had multiplied to catastrophic levels, consuming everything in their path and turning entire landscapes into lifeless wastelands. Lyra Knoll worked furiously at her station, analyzing data from the probe and drones deployed across Earth. Her fingers moved quickly over the glowing panels as she tried to piece together what was happening. "Commander," she said finally, her voice tense but controlled. "The nanobots are adapting. They're not just consuming. They're assimilating organic material, merging it with their own structure." Jarek stopped pacing and turned to face her. "You mean they're creating hybrids?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, and it's not limited to Siberia anymore. The nanobots have spread through wind currents and waterways. They're reaching other continents." Jarek clenched his fists. "This is worse than we thought. If these nanobots combine with the microbial spores, the results could be catastrophic." Back on Earth, Jack Monroe and Rachel Meyer scrambled to make sense of the chaos unfolding around them. News reports flooded in from every corner of the globe. Glowing algae blooms, choking marine ecosystems, metallic swarms devouring forests, and grotesque sea monsters washing ashore. Governments declared states of emergency, but no one knew how to stop the escalating crisis. Jack stared at a map projected on one of the observatory screens, marking the locations of the strange phenomena. "It's all connected," he muttered. "The glowing algae, the nanobot outbreaks, the mutated sea creatures, they're part of the same chain reaction." Rachel leaned closer, her eyes scanning the map. "But what triggered it? None of this makes sense." Jack hesitated, then pointed at a cluster of anomalies near Jupiter. "What if it's the aliens? What if their probe set this off?" Rachel frowned. "You think they're doing this on purpose?" "No," Jack replied. "I don't think they meant for any of this to happen. But their probe must have disturbed something ancient and powerful." As the two scientists debated, global leaders convened an emergency summit to address the growing threat. Military forces prepared for war, though no enemy had yet been identified. Conspiracy theories ran rampant, with some blaming secret government, experiments and others insisting the apocalypse had arrived. Amid the panic, Jack and Rachel struggled to get anyone to listen to their theory about alien interference. "We need proof," Rachel said firmly. "Without evidence, no one's going to take us seriously." Jack nodded. "Then let's find some. If we can intercept more signals or track the source of the disturbances, maybe we can prove the aliens are involved." Unbeknownst to them, the crew of the Zixar-7 faced its own challenges. Commander Jarek ordered the deployment of additional drones to contain the nanobot swarms and neutralize the microbial spores. However, each attempt met with failure. The nanobots were too fast, too adaptable. Every time the aliens tried to destroy them, the machines evolved, becoming stronger and more resilient. "It's like they're learning," Lyra said, frustration creeping into her voice. "Every strategy we use, they counteracted almost instantly." Jarek rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. "We can't keep fighting them directly. We need another approach." "What do you suggest?" Lyra asked. Jarek paused, thinking carefully. "We isolate the problem, cut off the nanobots' access to energy sources and organic material. Without fuel, they'll eventually collapse. But that means sacrificing parts of the planet," Lyra countered. "Entire regions could be lost." "I know," Jarek admitted grimly. "But if we don't act now, the entire planet will be lost." While the aliens debated their next move, the microbial spores continued to wreak havoc beneath the waves. Schools of fish mutated into grotesque forms, their bodies covered in glowing patches of bioluminescent tissue. Whales beached themselves en masse, their songs replaced by eerie, mechanical whines. Even the ocean currents seemed to change direction, carrying the spores toward coastal cities. On land, the nanobots advanced relentlessly. Forests turned silver as trees were consumed and transformed into metallic structures. Rivers froze solid, their waters replaced by shimmering liquid metal. Animals caught in the swarm collapsed into piles of dust, leaving behind only skeletal remains encased in steel. In New York City, Jack and Rachel watched news footage of the devastation with mounting dread. Entire neighborhoods had been evacuated, as metallic swarms crept closer to Manhattan. The skies above the city glowed faintly, reflecting the unnatural light emitted by the nanobots. "This can't go on much longer," Rachel whispered, her voice trembling. "If we don't stop this, there won't be anything left." Jack nodded, his expression grim. "We have to try. If we can figure out how the nanobots communicate, if we can hack into their systems, we might be able to shut them down." Rachel looked at him skeptically. "And how do you propose we do that?" Jack hesitated, then pointed at a laptop connected to the observatory's satellite array. "We've intercepted fragments of alien communication before. Maybe we can use those signals to establish contact. If the aliens are causing this, they might know how to fix it." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "You want to talk to them? What? If they're hostile?" "They haven't attacked us yet," Jack replied. "And if they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it already. My guess is they're trying to help, but they're making things worse without realizing it." Reluctantly, Rachel agreed to the plan. Together they worked tirelessly to decode the alien signals, piecing together fragments of language and patterns that hinted at a message. It was slow, Painstaking work, but they refused to give up. Meanwhile, aboard the Zixar-7, Lyra made a startling discovery. While analyzing the microbial spores, she detected traces of encoded information within their DNA. "Commander," she said urgently, calling Jarek over to her station. "These microorganisms aren't just reacting to the probe, they're communicating." Jarek frowned. "Communicating? With whom?" "With each other," Lyra explained. "They're using chemical signals to coordinate their actions. It's like they're working together to defend the planet." Jarek crossed his arms, his expression thoughtful. "So they see us and the nanobots as invaders." "It seems so," Lyra confirmed. "But there's something else. Their behavior suggests intelligence far beyond what we initially assumed." Before Jarek could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. One of the drones sent to contain the nanobots had malfunctioned, its systems overwhelmed by the swarm. Instead of collapsing, the nanobots absorbed the drone's technology, incorporating it into their own structure. "They're evolving again," Lyra said, her voice tight with concern. "Each time we interfere, they grow stronger." Jarek clenched, his jaw. "Then we stop interfering, at least for now. We need a new plan." As the aliens regrouped, Jack and Rachel finally succeeded in decoding part of the alien signal. Using the observatory satellite array, they transmitted a simple message: "We mean no harm, please help us." For a moment, there was silence. Then, to their astonishment, a response came. A series of pulses that matched the pattern of the original signal. The aliens had heard them. "This is it," Jack said, his voice filled with cautious hope. "We've made contact." Rachel nodded, her heart pounding. "Now we just have to convince them to help us." Little did they know, the aliens were already preparing to intervene. Back aboard the Zexar-7, Commander Jarek gave the order to deploy a specialized containment device designed to neutralize both the nanobots and the microbial spores. It was risky, but it was their best chance to restore balance to the planet. As the containment device descended toward Earth, humanity braced itself for what might come next. The battle between man, machine, and microbe was far from over, but for the first time, there was a glimmer of hope. The containment device deployed by the Zixar-7 descended toward Earth, its sleek metallic form glinting faintly in the sunlight. Designed to neutralize both the rogue nanobots and the microbial spores, it was the aliens' last hope of restoring balance to the planet. But as it entered the atmosphere, Commander Jarek Voss couldn't shake the feeling that they were gambling with forces far beyond their understanding. "This is risky," Lyra Knoll said, her voice low but steady, as she monitored the device's progress on the main screen. "If the nanobots adapt again, we could lose control entirely." Jarek nodded grimly. "We don't have a choice. If we don't act now, Earth will be consumed." Meanwhile, on the surface, Jack Monroe and Rachel Meyer watched anxiously as news reports detailed the deployment of an unidentified object in the sky. Governments scrambled to explain the phenomenon, some claiming it was a secret military weapon, while others speculated about extraterrestrial involvement. For Jack and Rachel, however, there was no doubt. The aliens had responded to their message. "They're trying to help," Jack murmured, staring at the glowing orb hovering above the horizon. "But will it be enough?" Rachel frowned. "What, if it makes things worse? We don't know what that thing is capable of." Jack hesitated, then shook his head. "We've run out of options. If we don't trust them, we're finished." As the containment device activated, beams of light shot out in all directions, scanning the surrounding area for signs of the nanobot swarms and microbial spores. The device emitted a low hum, its energy field pulsing rhythmically as it began to neutralize the threats. At first, it seemed to work. Metallic swarms dissipated where the beams touched them, and glowing algae blooms faded into harmless patches of green. But the relief was short-lived. Deep beneath the ocean, the microbial colonies detected the alien technology and reacted violently. Spores surged upward in massive clouds, merging with organic material and creating even larger hybrid creatures. These monsters emerged from the depths, their forms grotesque and unnatural. Some resembled giant octopuses with razor-sharp tentacles, while others looked like towering serpents covered in shimmering scales. On land, the nanobots also adapted, absorbing fragments of the containment device's energy field and using it to evolve further. They began constructing massive structures, tall, jagged towers made of liquid metal that stretched toward the sky. Entire cities were swallowed by these metallic forests, their buildings reduced to rubble. "Commander," Lyra shouted, her voice rising with alarm. "The containment device is destabilizing. It's accelerating the mutations instead of stopping them." Jarek clenched his fists, his jaw tight with frustration. "Shut it down, now!" Lyra worked quickly, her fingers flying over the controls as she attempted to deactivate the device, but it was too late. The energy field collapsed, releasing a shockwave that rippled across the planet. In its wake, the nanobots and microbial spores merged, forming hybrid entities that defied comprehension. Glowing tendrils of bioluminescent tissue wrapped around metallic bodies, creating nightmarish amalgamations of flesh and machine. Back on Earth, chaos erupted. Coastal cities were flooded as mutated sea creatures smashed through harbors, their monstrous forms wreaking havoc on everything in their path. Metallic swarms swept through urban areas, assimilating vehicles, buildings, and even people. The world descended into panic as humanity struggled to survive against forces it couldn't possibly understand. Jack and Rachel huddled in the observatory, watching the destruction unfold on screens displaying live footage from around the globe. Jack's hands trembled as he gripped the edge of his desk, his mind racing for a solution. "We need to warn the aliens," he said finally. "They don't realize what's happening." "How?" Rachel asked, her voice tinged with desperation. "Even if we can contact them again, how do we stop this?" Jack hesitated, then pointed at the satellite array. "We send them everything we've gathered, the data, the patterns, the anomalies. Maybe they can use it to adjust their approach." Rachel nodded, though her expression remained doubtful. "It's worth a try." Together, they compiled all the information they had collected and transmitted it to the Zixar-7. To their surprise, the aliens responded almost immediately. A new signal came through, this time more complex than before. It wasn't just a message, it was a blueprint. "They're sending us instructions," Rachel said, her eyes widening as she deciphered the data. "They want us to build something." "What is it?" Jack asked. Rachel studied the schematics carefully. "Some kind of program designed to reprogram the nanobots. If we can upload it, we might be able to turn them against the microbial spores." Jack nodded, determination replacing his earlier despair. "Then let's get to work." While Jack and Rachel focused on decoding the alien blueprint, Commander Jarek and his crew aboard the Zixar-7 faced their own dilemma. The hybrid entities created by the merger of nanobots and microbial spores were spreading rapidly, threatening not only Earth but potentially the entire galaxy. If left unchecked, these organisms could escape the planet and infect other worlds. "We underestimated Earth," Jarek admitted, his voice heavy with regret. "Its defenses are far more advanced and dangerous than we anticipated." Lyra nodded. "But we can't abandon it. Not yet. If we can isolate the hybrids and contain them, we might still save the planet." Jarek hesitated, then gave the order to deploy additional drones equipped with neutralizing agents. These drones were programmed to target only the hybrid entities, leaving Earth's natural ecosystems intact. As they descended toward the surface, the crew held their breath, hoping this latest attempt would succeed. Back on Earth, Jack and Rachel worked tirelessly to implement the alien program. Using the observatory's equipment, they managed to upload the code into the nanobot network. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the metallic swarms began to change. Instead of consuming organic material, the nanobots turned inward, dismantling the hybrid creatures and stabilizing the microbial colonies. "It's working," Rachel whispered, tears streaming down her face as she watched the transformation unfold on the screens. Jack nodded, exhaustion etched into his features. For now, at least. Though the immediate threat had been neutralized, the damage to Earth was catastrophic. Billions had perished, and entire regions lay in ruins. Oceans churned with bioluminescent fury, and skies glowed faintly with the remnants of the nanobot swarms. Humanity had survived, but barely. Aboard the Zixar-7, Commander Jarek gazed at Earth one final time before giving the order to depart. "This planet is unlike anything we've ever encountered," he said quietly. "It's fragile, yes, but also resilient. If nurtured, it may one day become the galaxy's greatest ally, or its most formidable foe." As the Zixar-7 vanished into the depths of space, Jack and Rachel stood side by side, watching the sunrise over a scarred but still beautiful world. They knew the road to recovery would be long and difficult, but they also knew that humanity had been given a second chance, a chance to rebuild and learn from the mistakes of the past. For now, Earth was safe, but its secrets and its potential remained as enigmatic as ever. The aftermath of the crisis left Earth in a state of fragile recovery. The skies, once glowing with the unnatural light of nanobot swarms, had dimmed to their familiar blue. The oceans, though still teeming with bioluminescent blooms, began to settle as the microbial colonies returned to their dormant state. Humanity had survived, but at a terrible cost. Entire cities lay in ruins, their streets empty and silent. Billions were gone, their lives claimed by the chaos unleashed by Earth's awakened guardians. Jack Monroe and Rachel Meyer stood on the roof of the observatory, staring out at the horizon. The air was thick with the scent of ash and salt water, remnants of the destruction that had swept across the planet. Despite the devastation, there was a sense of cautious hope. The alien program they had uploaded into the nanobot network had worked, barely. The hybrids had been dismantled, their monstrous forms reduced to harmless fragments, but the scars they left behind would take generations to heal. "We did it," Rachel said softly, breaking the silence. Her voice was heavy with exhaustion, but carried a faint note of relief. "We stopped them." Jack nodded, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of his jacket. "For now," he replied, "but we can't afford to forget what happened. If we do, it'll happen again." Rachel glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think the aliens will come back?" "I don't know," Jack admitted. "They helped us, but I don't think they trust us. Not completely." Rachel sighed. "Can you blame them? We're unpredictable. Even we don't fully understand ourselves." Jack didn't respond. His gaze was fixed on the distant skyline where metallic towers jutted out of the ground like jagged teeth. These structures, remnants of the nanobot's evolution, served as a grim reminder of how close humanity had come to annihilation. Though inert now, they loomed over the landscape, silent witnesses to the planet's darkest hour. Meanwhile, aboard the Zixar-7, Commander Jarek Voss convened with his crew to discuss their next steps. The ship hovered at the edge of Earth's orbit, its cloaking device still active. They had decided to remain nearby for a short time, monitoring the planet to ensure the threat was truly neutralized. But the decision weighed heavily on Yarek's mind. "We underestimated Earth," he said finally, addressing the crew. His tone was somber, his words measured. "Its defenses are far more complex and dangerous than we anticipated." Lyra, Noel nodded, her expression equally grave. "The microbial colonies acted as guardians protecting the planet from external threats. When our probe disturbed them, they reacted violently, and the nanobots, they amplified the chaos." Jarek rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. "What concerns me most is the potential for these forces to escape Earth. If the hybrids had spread beyond the atmosphere, the consequences could have been catastrophic, not just for this planet, but for the entire galaxy." Lyra hesitated, then spoke. "Do you think humanity realizes the danger they pose to themselves and others?" Jarek shook his head. "I'm not sure they do. They're intelligent, yes, but also reckless. Their history is filled with examples of self-destruction. Wars, Environmental collapse, biological experiments gone wrong. They seem incapable of learning from their mistakes. But they're also capable of incredible things, Lyra countered. Look at what they achieved during the crisis. They worked together, adapted, and found solutions. That kind of resilience is rare. Jarek frowned. Resilience isn't enough. Survival requires foresight, discipline, and restraint, qualities that seem lacking in this species. The crew fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts. They knew they couldn't stay on Earth forever. Their mission was to explore, not interfere. But leaving felt wrong, especially after witnessing the scale of the disaster. Earth was unique, a planet teeming with life, yet harboring apocalyptic forces. Beneath its surface, it was a paradox, one that defied easy answers. Back on Earth, Jack and Rachel continued their work, analyzing the data collected during the crisis. They hoped to uncover clues about the origins of the microbial colonies and the rogue nanobots. Their goal was twofold: to prevent another catastrophe and to better understand the planet they called home. What if the microbes aren't just defenders? Rachel mused one evening as they pored over holographic projections of DNA sequences. What if there's something else entirely? Something older? Jack leaned forward, studying the patterns on the screen. Older how? Think about it, Rachel said. They've been here for billions of years, long before humans or even dinosaurs. Maybe they're not just guarding Earth. Maybe they're preserving something. A secret or a weapon. Jack frowned. A weapon? You mean like a failsafe? Exactly, Rachel replied. Something designed to protect the planet, or destroy it if necessary. Jack considered this, his mind racing with possibilities. If that's true, then whoever created them must have had a reason. But who and why? Rachel shook her head. I don't know. But if we want to avoid another crisis, we need to find out. As days turned into weeks, global leaders began to address the aftermath of the disaster. Emergency summits were held to coordinate recovery efforts, and scientists from around the world collaborated to study the phenomena that had nearly destroyed humanity. Jack and Rachel became key figures in these discussions, sharing their findings and advocating for caution. We can't treat Earth like a resource to be exploited, Jack said during one meeting. His voice was firm, commanding attention. It's alive in ways we're only beginning to understand. If we push too hard, we risk waking up forces we can't control. His words resonated with many, but not everyone agreed. Some argued that humanity needed to focus on rebuilding, regardless of the risks. Others believed that Earth's defenses could be harnessed, turned into tools for advancement rather than barriers to progress. Amid the debates, Jack and Rachel received an unexpected message. It came through the same satellite array they had used to contact the Zixar-7, encoded in the same alien language they had deciphered earlier. The message was brief, but clear. You have been warned. They're watching us, Rachel said, her voice trembling slightly as she read the message aloud. They haven't left. Jack nodded, his expression grim. They're giving us a chance to prove ourselves, to show that we can learn from this. Rachel hesitated, then asked, and if we don't? Jack didn't answer. He didn't need to. Both of them knew the stakes. Humanity had survived its first encounter with Earth's deadliest secrets, but whether it could survive the next remained uncertain. On the Zixar-7, Commander Jarek made the decision to depart. The crew prepared the ship for departure, their movements quiet and deliberate. As the vessel turned away from Earth, Jarek gazed at the planet one last time. It was beautiful, fragile, and dangerous, a contradiction wrapped in layers of mystery. This isn't the end, he said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. One day we'll return, and when we do, we'll see if humanity has learned to live with the power it wields, or if it's destined to destroy itself. With that, the Zixar-7 vanished into the depths of space, leaving Earth behind. For now, the planet was safe, but its secrets and its potential remained, as enigmatic as ever. The days following the departure of the Zixar-7 were a blur of activity for Jack Monroe and Rachel Meyer. The weight of Earth's near destruction rested heavily on their shoulders. but they knew they couldn't afford to rest. Humanity had been given a second chance, and it was up to people like them, scientists, thinkers, and problem solvers, to ensure that chance wasn't wasted. At the observatory, they worked around the clock, analyzing every scrap of data they had collected during the crisis. The alien program that had neutralized the nanobots and microbial hybrids offered valuable insights into how such threats could be contained in the future. But Jack and Rachel weren't satisfied with just containing disasters. They wanted to prevent them entirely. "We need to understand why this happened," Rachel said one evening as she stared at a holographic projection of Earth's biosphere. Her voice was calm but carried an undertone of urgency. "If we don't figure out what triggered those microorganisms and nanobots, it'll happen again." Jack nodded, leaning back in his chair. His face was lined with exhaustion, but his eyes remained sharp. "It started with the probe, the aliens' probe. That's what disturbed the microbial colonies. But why did the nanobots react so violently? They weren't part of Earth's natural defenses. They were man-made." Rachel frowned. "You're right, the nanobots were created decades ago, abandoned when they became uncontrollable. So why did they suddenly wake up?" "Because of the probe," Jack replied. "Its energy signature must have activated something deep inside them. Maybe it reactivated their programming, or maybe it gave them new instructions." Rachel hesitated, then asked, "Do you think the aliens knew about the nanobots before they sent the probe?" Jack shook his head. "Probably not. If they had, they wouldn't have risked triggering them. No, I think they were focused on the microbes. The nanobots were an unintended consequence." Rachel sighed. "So we're dealing with two separate threats, one natural, one artificial, that somehow merged into something even worse." "Exactly," Jack said. "And if we don't find a way to keep them apart, they'll merge again." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. A young scientist named Alex Carter entered, holding a tablet. His face was pale, and his hands trembled slightly. "Dr. Monroe, Dr. Meyer, we've got a problem." Jack and Rachel exchanged worried glances. "What is it?" Jack asked. Alex handed over the tablet, his voice barely above a whisper. "We detected movement in Siberia, near the site where the nanobots first appeared." Jack took the tablet and studied the screen. It showed thermal imaging of the area, revealing faint traces of heat emanating from beneath the ice. "They're still active," he muttered. "I thought the program neutralized them." "It did," Rachel said quickly. "But maybe not completely. Some of them might have survived." Jack clenched his jaw. If even a few nanobots are still operational, they could rebuild the swarm, and this time we won't catch them off guard. Rachel turned to Alex. "How long until they break through the surface?" Alex hesitated. "Hard to say. Days, maybe weeks. But once they do, they'll spread fast." Jack stood up, his mind racing. "We need to act now. If we can isolate the site and deploy containment measures, we might be able to stop them before they get out of control." Rachel nodded. "Let's contact the Global Coalition. We'll need their help to contain this." As Jack and Rachel prepared to alert world leaders, Commander Jarek Voss aboard the Zixar-7 faced a dilemma of his own. Though the ship had left Earth's orbit, its sensors continued to monitor the planet for signs of instability. When reports came in about renewed activity in Siberia, Jarek knew they couldn't ignore it. "Commander," Lyra Knoll said, her voice tense as she studied the readings. "The nanobots are regenerating. If we don't intervene, they'll escape containment." Jarek frowned. "We can't interfere directly. Not again. Every time we try, we make things worse." Lyra hesitated, then suggested, "What if we assist? Humanity indirectly? Provide them with tools or knowledge to handle the situation themselves?" Jarek considered this, his expression thoughtful. "It's risky. If they misuse the information, it could escalate the crisis. But if we do nothing, the consequences could be far greater," Lyra countered. "Earth's defenses are too dangerous to leave unchecked. If the nanobots merge with the microbial spores again, the entire planet could destabilize." After a moment of silence, Jarek nodded. "Prepare a transmission. Send them everything we've learned about the nanobots. And the microbes, let's hope they're ready to listen. Back on Earth, Jack and Rachel received the transmission while briefing government officials about the situation in Siberia. At first, the encrypted message appeared as a series of incomprehensible symbols, but using the same methods they had employed earlier, they managed to decode it. "This is incredible," Rachel whispered as she scrolled through the data. "They've given us detailed schematics of the nanobot structure and instructions on how to dismantle them." Jack nodded, his eyes scanning the information. "Not just dismantle them, reprogram them. If we can upload a new set of commands, we might be able to turn them into allies instead of enemies." Rachel looked at him skeptically. "Are you sure that's a good idea? Last time we tried to control them, it nearly destroyed the planet." "I know," Jack admitted, "but we don't have a choice. If we let them run wild, they'll destroy everything anyway." With the alien data in hand, Jack and Rachel coordinated with international agencies to implement the plan. Teams of scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to build a device capable of interfacing with the nanobot network. Meanwhile, military forces established a perimeter around the Siberian site, preparing for the worst. As the days passed, the heat signatures beneath the ice grew stronger. Cracks began to form on the surface, releasing clouds of steam that smelled faintly of sulfur. It was only a matter of time before the nanobots broke free. Finally, the device was ready. Jack and Rachel joined the team tasked with deploying it, traveling to Siberia aboard a transport plane. The landscape below was desolate, covered in snow and ice. As they approached the site, they could see the cracks spreading across the frozen ground like veins. "This is it," Rachel said softly as they disembarked. Her breath misted in the cold air, and her gloved hands tightened around the case containing the device. Jack nodded, his expression grim. "Let's hope it works." The team moved quickly, setting up the device at the center of the largest crack. Jack connected it to a portable power source while Rachel input the alien code into its system. When everything was ready, they stepped back and activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a low hum filled the air as the device emitted a pulsing beam of light. The ground trembled, and the cracks widened as the nanobots surged upward, drawn to the energy field. But instead of attacking, they began to disintegrate, their metallic forms collapsing into harmless dust. "It's working," Rachel shouted, her voice filled with relief. "They're breaking down." Jack watched in awe as the swarm shrank, the glowing tendrils of nanobots fading into nothingness. Within minutes, the site was silent, the threat neutralized. But the victory was bittersweet. Though the immediate danger had passed, the scars left by the crisis would take decades, if not centuries, to heal. Entire ecosystems had been disrupted, and millions of lives had been lost. Humanity had survived, but at a cost that no one could forget. As Jack and Rachel returned to the observatory, they reflected on what had happened. The aliens' intervention had saved them, but it had also served as a warning. Earth was a fragile, unpredictable world, a place of immense beauty and unimaginable danger. If humanity hoped to thrive, it would need to tread carefully. "They trusted us," Rachel said finally, breaking the silence. "The aliens, they didn't have to help us, but they did." Jack nodded. "Yeah, and now it's up to us to prove that trust wasn't misplaced." Rachel smiled faintly. "We'll do our best." For now, Earth was safe, but its secrets and its potential remained as enigmatic as ever. The containment of the nanobots in Siberia marked a turning point for humanity, but it was clear to Jack Monroe and Rachel Meyer that the battle was far from over. The crisis had exposed vulnerabilities not just in Earth's ecosystems, but also in humanity's ability to respond to threats on a global scale. Governments, scientists, and citizens alike were left grappling with the realization that Earth was far more complex and dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. At the observatory, Jack and Rachel worked tirelessly to analyze the aftermath of the Siberian operation. Using the alien data they had decoded, they began piecing together a broader understanding of the microbial colonies and their role as guardians of the planet. What they discovered was both fascinating and unsettling. These microorganisms aren't just defenders. Rachel said one evening as she studied holographic projections of DNA sequences. Her voice carried a mix of awe and unease. They're ancient, older than anything we've encountered before. Jack nodded, his brow furrowed, as he examined the glowing patterns on the screen. And they're sentient, not in the way humans are, but in their own way. They react, adapt, and even communicate. Rachel hesitated, then added, "It's like they've been waiting, dormant for billions of years, ready to awaken if something, or someone, threatens Earth." Jack leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. So, when the aliens' probe arrived, it triggered them. But why didn't they attack outright? Why create hybrids instead of just destroying the invaders? Maybe they weren't trying to destroy, Rachel suggested. Maybe they were testing, seeing how adaptable the threat was. Jack frowned. Testing us? Or the aliens? Both, Rachel replied. If Earth is going to survive, it needs to know what kind of species it's dealing with. Whether they're hostile or something else. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. Alex Carter entered holding a stack of reports. His face was pale and his hands trembled slightly. Dr. Monroe, Dr. Meyer, there's another problem. Jack sighed, bracing himself. What now? Alex handed over the reports. We've detected unusual activity in the oceans. The microbial colonies are stirring again. Rachel's eyes widened. Stirring? How? They're releasing spores, Alex explained. Not as aggressively as before, but enough to cause concern. And this time, it's happening in multiple locations. Jack clenched his jaw. This can't be a coincidence. Something's triggering them. Rachel turned to Alex. Do we know what's causing it? Alex shook his head. Not yet, but whatever it is, it's spreading. As Jack and Rachel prepared to investigate further, Commander Jarek Voss aboard the Zixar-7 faced his own concerns. Though the ship had moved farther away from Earth, its sensors continued to monitor the planet for signs of instability. When reports came in about renewed microbial activity, Jarek knew they couldn't ignore it. Commander, Lyra Knoll said, her voice tense as she studied the readings. The microbes are reacting to something, but it's not us. It's coming from within Earth itself. Jarek frowned. Explain. Lyra hesitated, then replied, There's a pattern, a rhythm. It's almost like seismic activity. Jarek's eyes narrowed. You think Earth's core is involved? It's possible, Lyra admitted. The planet's energy signatures are shifting. If the core destabilizes, it could trigger catastrophic changes on the surface. Jarek considered this, his expression grim. We need to warn them. Humanity might not survive another crisis. Back on Earth, Jack and Rachel received the warning from the Zixar-7 while analyzing oceanic data. The transmission was brief but urgent. Earth's core is destabilizing. Microbial activity may be linked. This changes everything, Rachel whispered, her voice trembling as she read the message. If the core destabilizes, it could unleash forces beyond our control. Jack nodded, his mind racing. We need to find out what's causing the microbes to stir. If we don't address the root cause, we'll be fighting symptoms instead of solving the problem. Rachel turned to Alex. Pull up all seismic data from the past few months. Cross-reference it with microbial activity. We need to see if there's a connection. Alex nodded and hurried to comply. Within hours, a pattern emerged. The microbial colonies were releasing spores in response to subtle shifts in Earth's tectonic plates. These shifts were minor, almost imperceptible, but they were growing stronger. It's like the planet is waking up, Rachel murmured, staring at the data. But why now? Jack hesitated, then suggested, maybe it's not natural. Maybe something's causing it. Rachel frowned. You mean, like, human activity? Possibly, Jack admitted. Mining, drilling, fracking, all of it could be affecting the core. If we've disrupted Earth's balance, the microbes might be trying to restore it. Rachel sighed. If that's true, then stopping them isn't the answer. We need to fix the imbalance. Jack nodded. But how? We can't just shut down every mine and drilling operation overnight. No, Rachel agreed. But we can start by identifying the biggest offenders, the areas where human activity is most likely to be impacting the core. With this new goal in mind, Jack and Rachel coordinated with international agencies to implement a plan. Teams of geologists and engineers worked together to map Earth's tectonic activity and identify regions where human interference might be causing instability. Meanwhile, governments imposed temporary restrictions on mining and drilling operations, hoping to slow the process. As days turned into weeks, the microbial activity began to subside. The spores stopped spreading and the ocean currents returned to their normal patterns. For the first time in months, there was a sense of cautious optimism. But the victory was bittersweet. Humanity had narrowly avoided another disaster, but the underlying issues remained unresolved. Earth's core was still unstable, and the microbial colonies were still active, dormant for now but ready to awaken if provoked again. At the observatory, Jack and Rachel reflected on what they had learned. The aliens' intervention had given them valuable insights, but it had also served as a reminder of how fragile their world truly was. "We've been given a second chance," Rachel said finally, breaking the silence. Her voice was soft but carried a note of determination. "But it's up to us to make it count." Jack nodded. "Yeah. And that means changing the way we treat Earth, not just as a resource, but as a living, breathing entity." Rachel smiled faintly. "Easier said than done." "I know," Jack admitted. "But if we don't try, we'll lose everything." For now, Earth was safe, but its secrets and its potential remained as enigmatic as ever. Humanity had survived its deadliest hour, but the lessons of the crisis would echo for generations to come. On the Zixar-7, Commander Jarek gazed at Earth one final time before giving the order to depart. The planet glowed faintly in the distance, its beauty tinged with an aura of danger. "This isn't goodbye," Jarek said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "One day we'll return, and when we do, we'll see if humanity has learned to live with the power it wields, or if it's destined to destroy itself." With that, the Zixar-7 vanished into the depths of space, leaving Earth behind. For now, the planet was safe, but its secrets and its potential remained as enigmatic as ever. Months passed since the crisis that nearly destroyed Earth. The planet was healing, though scars remained, both on its surface and in the hearts of its people. Coastal cities slowly rebuilt their harbors, forests regrew where metallic swarms had once consumed everything, and the oceans began to clear of glowing algae. Humanity had survived, but the cost was staggering. Billions were gone, and entire ecosystems had been disrupted. Yet amidst the pain and loss, there was also hope. A fragile but determined resolve to learn from the past and build a better future. Jack Monroe and Rachel Meyer continued their work at the observatory, dedicating themselves to understanding Earth's deepest secrets. The alien data they had decoded provided invaluable insights into the microbial colonies and the rogue nanobots, but it also raised new questions. What were the microbes guarding? Why had they awakened now after billions of years of dormancy? And what role did humanity play in this delicate balance? "We're standing on the edge of something much bigger than us," Rachel said one evening, as she and Jack reviewed holographic projections of Earth's core activity. Her voice was calm, but carried a sense of awe. "These microorganisms, they're not just defenders. They're part of something ancient, something we can't fully comprehend." Jack nodded, his eyes fixed on the swirling patterns of energy displayed on the screen. "They've been here since Earth's beginning, maybe even before. If they're protecting something, it's something worth protecting." Rachel hesitated, then asked, "Do you think the aliens understood them, or were they just as clueless as we are?" "Hard to say," Jack admitted. "But I think they respected them. That's why they left without trying to take anything or interfere further." Rachel sighed. "Respect is good, but respect alone won't save us if we keep making the same mistakes." Jack turned to face her, his expression serious. "That's why we have to change. Not just how we treat Earth, but how we think about it. It's not just a planet. It's alive. a living, breathing system that reacts to what we do. Rachel nodded. And if we push too hard, it pushes back. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. Alex Carter entered, holding a tablet. His face was pale, but he managed a small smile. "Dr. Monroe, Dr. Meyer, you need to see this." Jack and Rachel exchanged worried glances. "What is it?" Jack asked. Alex handed over the tablet. "It's a transmission from the ZXR-7. Jack's eyes widened as he read the message. It was brief, but profound. "You have shown resilience. Continue to learn, or the consequences will return." "They're watching us," Rachel whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "Even now, they're still watching." Jack nodded, his expression grim. "They're giving us a chance to prove we can handle the responsibility of living on a world like this." Rachel hesitated, then asked, "Do you think we can?" Jack didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked out the window at the night sky, where stars twinkled faintly against the darkness. "I don't know," he admitted finally, "but we have to try." Meanwhile, aboard the ZXR-7, Commander Jarek Voss and his crew prepared to leave Earth's solar system entirely. Their mission had been to explore and observe, but their encounter with Earth had changed them. Lyra Knoll stood beside Jarek, in the control room, gazing at the blue-green orb displayed on the main screen. "This planet is unlike any we've ever encountered," Lyra said softly. "It's beautiful, dangerous, and unpredictable. And yet, there's something inspiring about it." Jarek nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Humanity is fragile, yes, but also resilient. They've faced extinction-level threats and survived, not through strength, but through ingenuity and cooperation." Lyra smiled faintly. "Do you think they'll make it? Long-term, I mean." Jarek hesitated, then replied, "I don't know. But if they can learn to live with Earth's power instead of fighting against it, they might have a chance." Lyra turned to him, her eyes filled with curiosity. "Do you think we'll ever return?" Jarek sighed. "Someday. When they're ready, or when we are." With that, the ZXR-7 initiated its departure sequence. The ship moved silently through space, leaving behind the solar system and the mysterious planet that had tested them in ways they never expected. As they traveled deeper into the galaxy, the crew reflected on what they had learned. Earth was a paradox, a world capable of immense destruction, yet also of incredible beauty and potential. Back on Earth, Jack and Rachel worked tirelessly to ensure humanity wouldn't repeat its mistakes. Using the alien data, they developed new technologies designed to monitor Earth's biosphere and predict potential threats. Governments around the world collaborated to establish environmental protections, limiting activities that could destabilize tectonic plates or disrupt microbial colonies. Education programs were launched to teach people about Earth's interconnected systems and the importance of living in harmony with nature. "It's not going to be easy," Rachel said one day, as she and Jack walked through a newly restored park. Trees swayed gently in the breeze and birds chirped overhead. "Changing the way people think takes time." Jack nodded. "But it's worth it. If we can inspire even a fraction of humanity to care about the planet, we've made progress." Rachel smiled. "Progress is good, but we can't stop here." "No," Jack agreed. "This is just the beginning." As the years passed, Earth began to recover. Oceans teemed with life again, forests stretched across continents, and skies cleared of pollution. Humanity had learned painful lessons, but those lessons had sparked a global movement toward sustainability and respect for the natural world. Centuries later, when humans finally ventured beyond their solar system, they carried with them the memory of Earth's darkest hour. They remembered the microbial colonies that had awakened to defend their world, the rogue nanobots that had threatened to consume it, and the aliens who had intervened, not to conquer, but to warn. They remembered the fragility of their home and the resilience it had inspired. Earth remained the galaxy's deadliest world, a title earned through chaos and survival, but it was also a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable danger, life could endure. And as humanity reached for the stars, they vowed never to forget the lessons of their home planet. For Earth was more than just a world. It was a guardian, a teacher, and a survivor, and its story would echo through the ages long after humanity had become a galactic civilization. The end.